Alrighty, in the previous video what we did is we set up this whole scene. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate just on a couple of items in here and show you how you should go about modeling. Okay, so right here I have my computer. Now more or less this computer is actually this box. Now there is obviously more detail to it than that, right? So I have like disk drives. My computer still has that, power button, USB things, and stuff like that. And this is where, depending on what your medium is, you would make a decision of whether to add those or not to add those, whether you're going to add more geometry or less. Now, if I was making something and it was meant to be this photorealistic, like ad for a magazine or something, I would probably go through and model this exactly as it is. I'd want all the little pieces, like where the microphone jack is, and like the reset button, and like all the stuff, and maybe even the back, if I'm going to take a picture of the back. I'd go through and model it, the geometry, just like the actual geometry is. Now, if I was going to do a video game, depending on how high poly it is, I would probably leave it, I might just leave it completely as a box, and then just put textures on there that would make it look like there were those elements there. Or I might be somewhere in between. I'm going to do something somewhere in between instead, because that'll just be a little bit easier. So first things first, if I were to look at this box, right, and I'm going to turn off this wireframe unshaded, this is infinitely sharp, okay? It means this is a perfect angle. Almost nothing is perfectly sharp like that, okay? Like they're not going to be like just a complete right angle and it's just like that, right? Maybe a blade, right? This would like cut you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bevel the box in general. So I want to bevel the whole thing. So I'm just going to select the whole thing. Actually, I'll show you first. So you can do it by edges. So let's say I only wanted to bevel just this top group. Don't do this. I'm just showing you. I can hit bevel, and then I can adjust the fraction here. So and then I could up the number of segments. And what it'll do is it'll only bevel those edges I selected. You can see it does this nice little curved thing, okay? In my case, I actually want to do the whole thing. So I'm just going to keep it in object mode and hit bevel. And it's going to bevel the whole thing. That's obviously way too much. I'm going to click and drag. So let's see, 0.1. That's still too much. So I'm going to do like 0.01. That's a little bit closer. And then I need to determine like how many divisions do I need. I actually think one's not bad, but maybe we'll just do 2. Let's do 0.015. Just want a little bit more. And now you can see there's a little bit of a curve there. See it? And it's enough to basically give it a little bit of a softer edge. See how that looks nicer? It also like will catch the light there, like the specular highlight, where this won't catch one. So it makes it considerably better. Now, to do the rest of the computer, I'm literally just going to make like a cube. Here's a neat little trick. So it's over here, right? If I could go over here and hit W and select it, or I could go over here. We'll see if this works. And I'll hit W, and then I'll hold V and middle mouse button, click right here. What that'll do is that if you hold V and a middle mouse button, V is point snap, and if I middle click, it will snap to wherever my mouse, wherever nearest vertex is, or point that my mouse is. So I'm just going to hold V and pull it up there. If it doesn't work, don't worry about it. Just grab it from there and bring it over. And all I'm going to do is just scale this down like this. And I'm going to put it down and over here. And just kind of push that in, and voila, now it looks like it's got a disk drive. Now I could bevel this too, but just for the sake of not wanting to add more geometry, I just duplicated it too. For the sake of not wanting to add more geometry, I'm not going to. I'm going to put this back on so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. That looks fine. Then there would be like a power button, so that would just be a cylinder, right? And again, I'm just going to hold V, and let's scale this down. And I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees on Z. Okay. And I'll just put it down here. And I'll just scale it up. Maybe scale it a little bit thinner. Push it in a little bit. Okay. So we'll call that good. It's not great, but it's good enough for a sort of idea of what this would be. Okay. So for like simple objects that aren't really that many things, you might be able to just get away with making some micro adjustments. Now, what I want to do next is I'm going to approach this desk. Okay, my desk is actually not a square like this. It's sort of an L shape. So this part here is square, and it goes square all the way back here and square to here. But right here, there's actually a curve. So it actually comes out here, curves in, and comes in here, okay? So it goes like this. So I want to do that here. So what I'm going to do is try to make that happen. So I'm going to make a general shape and then go from there. So first what I'm going to do is I'm using my multi-cut tool. I'm going to cut right here, okay? Then I'm going to go to face. I held Control and clicked on that. I'm going to go to face. I'm going to hit Control E for extrude. And I'm going to hit W for the move tool. And I'll pull this out roughly to where that should go. So we'll say there. Okay. Now, what I want to do is this should actually be a curve. Now, to do that, it needs a lot more geometry than it currently has. Okay. So if I hit 3, I could see that if it was polysmooth, it would actually have curve there, which is pretty close. This is not right. See how it's curving this and it's curving this. What I can do is I can combat that by doing a couple of things. So what I'm going to do is I want this to still be straight. So I'm going to go to my multi-cut tool. I'm going to hold Control. And I'm going to make an edge really close. Really, really close to right here. Now watch. When I hit 3, because that edge is so tight, it's going to keep that square. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that here too. Because if you look, you can see how it's curving right here. So if I put one really, really tight to this edge, because what it's doing is it's subdividing. Oops, back up. It's subdividing, right? So it's blending halfway between here and here. And that forces it, when you have them really tight, it won't allow them to curve there. So you can see now, when I hit 3, that's a nice straight. Okay? And I'm just going to do that all the way around because that's how my table is. So I'll put one up here. Okay? And I'll put one here. Good. Now, if I hit 3, oops, I hit 4 apparently, 5, and then I'll hit 3. You can see it looks pretty close to what it would look like. There are still some minor issues. So for one, if I look to the side, see how it's curving this way? I mean, it doesn't look like a curve, it looks like a point, but technically it's curving it. So what I need to do is I want the top to be a hard edge. Right here. So I have this edge going this way. I need to put one going this way. So I'm going to go this way here, and then also right here. And now when I hit 3, you see it's got a nice, that's a curve. That should be a curve. I'll take care of that in a second. But now it's got this nice kind of tight edge. So what I'm going to do is that this should also, because it's, so I don't have it going this way, so it's not doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one here. Get close so I can see it. To get this edge tight. So now that's nice and tight. And then I'm also going to put one here because this should also be tight. And then when I hit 3, there you go. You can see it's got that curve there that I wanted. And those are relatively tight. Hang on a second. 1. I think it didn't cut all the way. Hang on a second. Let me undo. Let's try this again. Control. All right, let's do 3. There we go. Now it's tight. And now I got this curve because I didn't put any extra edges in here to support this being a tight thing. If I did, watch. If I put one, if I can get it to go, one here. Don't do this. I'm just showing you. Come on, man. Let me do it. If I put in this corner, if I put a tight edge here, and then also here, when I hit 3, you're going to see it's going to make a tight edge there. But by not having edges close to each other there, it allows it to maintain that curve. Okay, so now that I'm happy with it, I'm going to go ahead in object mode. I'm just going to go ahead and polysmooth it. And if you look, see how there's a lot of faceting right here? So it needs more. So I can up my divisions here. So I can just click on 2. Or if that doesn't work for you, you could just click off, click back on it again. Come on. And then just hit polysmooth again until you get a good enough curve. We're going to call that good enough because I don't want to go too high poly. Normally what I would also do is, you see all these extra edges in here? They're not actually supporting the geometry in any way. So I would just double click, hold shift, double click, double click, double click. I'm holding shift the whole time. Grab all of those. Grab this one too. And then don't hit delete. That'll leave the vertices. I'm going to hit control delete. And that will remove those because they aren't actually doing anything to benefit the geometry. And you could do that everywhere. Like I could grab these ones. hit Control Delete, because they're not actually doing anything. And you could grab the ones going this way too. And it just helps lower the poly count. Control Delete though, makes you do Control Delete. And let's probably this one and this one. And then you can see the curve starts to happen right here. So I'm going to leave these because I need these to be here for this curve. And then I could get rid of this one. I don't know. I guess the curve kind of starts there. So let's not get rid of that one. I'm just going to get rid of those two. And that way I need to have the ones that are here in order to support the curve. Okay. So there we go. Now we've got a table that has the curve on it that looks a little bit more accurate. Right? So that's pretty good. That's acceptable. Now the monitor, I'm just going to make this look kind of generic. This is going to be pretty easy. So I'm going to grab this front face. I'm going to hit Control E. I'm going to click this little cube. It's going to bring in this, and then I can just click and scale this in a little bit, like so. And then I'm going to Control E again for extrude. This time I'm going to push it in a little bit, like so. And now you see it looks like a monitor window. And then I am going to go ahead and I'm just going to grab this edge loop. I'm going to double click this edge loop. Come on, you can do it. It's weird. Okay, I guess I'll just click on them manually. I don't know why it's not letting me double click on it. That one worked. That's weird. Just wouldn't do the back one. So I'm going to grab basically the one that goes around this way and the other one. Oh, and these. I'm going to grab these two. These corners. And I'm just going to bevel these. I'm not going to bevel the inside because I don't really want this to get rounded in there. So I'm just going to bevel these. And then I'll hit bevel. And we'll just do like 0.1, we'll say. And we'll just put a 2 in there for 2 divisions. There you go. Because I think it'll look better if it's actually sharp right there. So, but now those are beveled and that looks acceptable. So you can see it looks like a monitor. Now you're never going to see behind the monitor, so I'm not really worried about doing anything back there. Now so let's do the chair, because the chair is probably going to be the most complicated thing. But you can see most objects that are sort of basically those shapes, you should be able to just, oh, you know what, actually I want to do the mouse. I'm going to do the mouse. So the keyboard I would do kind of similarly to these. I would just bevel the edges, maybe adjust it some, and then put a bunch of cubes in there to represent the keys. The mouse actually I want to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete every other one. Oops, not this guy. Every other one of these. Control Delete. Now I want to look just at the mouse, so I'm going to right click, go to object mode, and just hold Shift I. Shift I. And I just want to flatten the bottom here. So I'm just going to go like that, grab the bottom faces. I'm going to hit R and just flatten that, like so. And then this edge right here, I'm just going to go ahead and bevel that. And let's just do segments, we'll do 2. And let's do 0.75. Just want to round it out a little bit more. Call that good. And now there's a bunch of extra edges in here that I don't need. So I'm just going to double click, hold Shift. I don't know if it'll, oh, we'll do that one. Control Delete. We don't need any of those. Okay. And then we'll just, I mean, mice look different depending on, but I'm going to grab these top vertices, hit R for scale. I'm just going to scale a little bit wider like that. And I'm going to call that good as far as the mouse is concerned. It definitely could use more work, but it's enough of, let's polysmooth it too. There we go. It could use more work, but we're going to call that good. The other thing I want to add, and I might add like the little wheelie ball, like just take a cylinder and stick it in there. What I want to add, and I just think this is a neat tool to use, is I want to add a wire, right? So it's hard because I could take a cylinder and extrude and go out and around, but that'd be really difficult to do. I'm going to show you a trick. I'm going to make a cylinder. Okay. Actually, what size is this? W. I don't like that. Okay. We're going to go ahead and use the cylinder. So I make a cylinder, and I'm going to pull this over. All right. And I'm going to scale it down real small. This is going to be my wire. Is what I'm working on here. Okay. And I'm going to make sure it's 90 degrees this way. Okay. And we're going to pull it down. And I'm going to put it right in front where the wire comes out. Okay. I know some of you guys probably have wireless mice. For some reason I just don't like wireless mice. I don't know what it is. There's something about it. I don't know. It doesn't suit my fancy. Scale this out a little bit more because it's still too big. And I'm just going to kind of stick it in there like that. Okay, so that's where my wire is going to come out. Great. Okay. Now, I could grab these front faces and extrude them. That'd be really hard. I'm going to show you a neat little trick. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a top view so it's a little bit easier to work with. All right. And I'm going to put wireframe on shaded so I can see everything. Okay, so there's my mouse. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a curve. So go to create, curve, and let's just do CV. I'm going to hit the option box. Make sure it's on cubic. If you do linear, it means it's going to be straight lines. If I do cubic, it's going to curve it out. Now, there is an option to do Bezier as well. So if you feel comfortable with Bezier curves, you can try using the Bezier. It still feels weird to me because that only existed as of like, well, actually it was a while ago now, but still feels weird. So I'm just going to make sure it's cubic. That should be good. Now what we're going to do is I'm just going to click where this starts, which is right here. And I'm going to click, 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 click. I'm going to hit 4 so I can see what I'm drawing. The wire actually is going to be, this curve is going to actually be on this grid, which means it's actually below my model. That's why I can't see it when I'm in here. I'm going to move it up afterwards. So I'm going to hit 4 again for wireframe. And then I'm just going to make it look like it goes to there. Okay? So we'll say that's my mouse cord. All right? And then you just hit enter when you're done. So you just click and that's it. So I'm going to tap spacebar. I can see it's down there, so I'm just going to pull it up and put it back down. And I just want to make sure right there. So I'm just trying to center it on this as much as possible. It's pretty good. Okay. Now, if I want to add variation to this vertically, like have it go up and down or what have you, so like for instance, I need to go up right here. What you want to do is you right click over top of it, go to control vertex, and then you can, or CV, did it say vertex or CV? CV anyway, it's a control vertex. But anyways, I can pull these points and move them. And for that matter, if I wanted to like adjust it at all, I can do that too this way. Okay, so just like you have a vertice on a model, these kind of do the same thing. So I'm just going to go like that. Okay, so make sure you're happy with the wire. Oops. Come on. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is this. This is where it gets neat. So I'm going to grab this. Okay, I'm going to hit F to frame it so that I can see what I'm doing. And come on. There. And I'm going to go to faces. I'm going to grab these faces. I'm going to hold tab to paint select and just go do. Get those faces. Then I'm going to hold shift and click on this wire. So I grab these faces, then hold shift, click the wire, and then hit extrude. And it's going to do this. And you'll be like, well, that looks terrible. That's not what it is. The reason why it looks like this is it's trying to follow the path. But when it follows the path, it only has one division. So the most it can do is just go from the start to the end. But if I change the divisions here, and give it more and more resolution, it can then follow it. Now, you'll notice it's only going to 25. You can go higher. I could go 50. You can type in a higher number than what it is. So I'm just going to type in 50, and I'm going to call that good. And there you go. Now you have a wire. And you can use that to make like vines or trees or rope or hair. You could just draw a curve and then extrude across that path. So it's a pretty neat little trick. I kind of wanted to show you it just because it might be useful to you. All right. So that's fun. That's that. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this chair, just because the chair is going to be a little bit more. We're going to do a lot of the same things we did here, but just on this chair here. So I'm just going to select the chair, and I'm just going to adjust it a little bit. So I'm going to scale this a little bit wider, we'll say. And then when I hit 3, it's going to give me this kind of shape, right? Now, it's actually got this kind of like this part's a little bit round, like it kind of rounds here, and the back's kind of flat. So I'm going to try and utilize that. So I'm going to use my multi-cut tool, and I want this back to be flat. So watch. You dirty dog. If I hold and go to here, when I hit 3 now, you're going to see this back's going to be flat, and the front's going to be round. Okay. Now I also want it relatively straight this way. So if I go really tight, right, like this and this, don't do that. I'm just showing you. It's going to make it pretty tight. But if I want a little bit softer, if I go in a little bit farther, let's say here and here, when I hit 3, you're going to see it's a lot more round this way. So I want it to be a little bit softer. So I'm going to hit back to 1. Now the other thing is it's supposed to kind of curve out and then kind of go in. So I'm just going to add a couple of cuts here. And I'm going to go to vertex. And I'm just going to move this in a little bit, like so. And I'm going to take this one and kind of pull it down. Well, let's take this whole thing. I'm just going to push this out a little bit. And I'm going to add another one up here. So let's go this direction. And then I'm going to grab this and W and pull up like that. Now let's hit 3. See what that looks like? That looks okay. It's not too bad. I want there to be a tighter crease right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some more in here. Put one here. And I'm also going to put one closer here. Now what you're going to see, and I'm going to take this one, Q. I'm going to go edge. I'm going to click on this edge. I'm going to hold shift and double click on this edge. And I'm going to pull this out so that it makes it a little bit more round. Now when I put 2 edges near each other, it's going to make it a tight crease there. So watch, I hit 3. So now you can see it's making it look like that. And that's an okay thing. I'm okay with that. It might be nice if maybe it was a little bit more pressed on the inside. So I'm just going to go ahead. Now I want this to be in the center. So I'm going to hold shift and control. And that's going to keep it on these increments. And then I can find center. And then I'll click. Okay. And all I'm going to do is basically click here, hold shift, double click here. And I'm just going to kind of push this in a little. Just so that there's a little bit more of an impression going this way. That looks okay. And I'm going to do more or less kind of the same thing on the bottom here. So when I'm done with that, I'm just going to go ahead and select it. Come on. And then I'm just going to hit Polysmooth. Good. And that looks acceptable. Now I could get a lot more detailed with it and do all sorts of stuff, but we're going to call that good. I'm going to go here. And, yeah, probably should have put, that seems a little round there, but that's fine. I'm going to grab this, and I'm just going to kind of do the same thing. This one's actually a bit simpler. So it's got a harsher edge on the, okay, let's go back to object mode, try again. There we go. It's got a harsher edge on the bottom, and then it's got kind of the same thing here where it's a little bit roundish on these edges. It should be kind of dimpling in. Oh, that's weird. Okay, try that again. Come on, man. Just do the thing. There we go. Julie, do the thing. I don't know if any of you guys watch Avatar. Okay, this and this. And we'll push this down a little bit just so it feels a little bit more like a seat. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab this one and just push this in a little bit too. And let's just see 3, what it looked like in Polysmooth. And that's probably good enough. Actually, let's just take the top part of this and just bring this up a little bit. I think would be, let's hit 3 again. Yeah, that looks better. Okay. And then when I'm done, go back into object mode. And with it selected, I'm just going to hit Polysmooth. And you can see now it's Polysmooth. That's acceptable. Come on. W, and just push this back a little bit. So now I just need to put the back part here. So there should be like a thing that goes across it. I don't know what it looks like. Oh, there isn't one actually. How are these connected? Well, I'm going to put one back there anyways because I think it'll look better. Okay. So I'm just going to bring this cube over. I'm going to hold V for point snap and point snap it here. R, scale it like that. And I'm just going to hit E for rotate and try to match it to this. And W. And I'll move it down here. That's fine. And then I'm going to go to the face. And this will be a neat trick. So I'm going to have this selected, and I'm going to hit Control E for extrude. Move it down here. Okay. Hopefully, because I want it to the bottom of the seat. And I'll rotate, hit E to rotate. I'm going to rotate it in the appropriate amount. Okay, then I'll hit Control E to extrude again. I'll hit W for the move tool, and I'll move it straight across. And then I'm just going to go like pretty far because I'm going to use this for where I attach the other stuff here. Okay, so we got like that. Now, if you look, you can see like that obviously isn't right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my multi-cut tool. I'm going to put a cut in here. Hopefully, someday it will work. Jeez, come on, dude. Just do the thing. Click. There it goes. Double click this, or don't double click. Sorry, I keep getting phone calls while we're in the midst of things. Okay. W, push this out. Like so. And then I want to put another one right here. And I'm going to go ahead and bevel that. And where's bevel? And what you're going to see is with the bevel, if I up my segments, and let's see, I can just go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to hit B for soft select. And then I can just kind of pull this out to get a little bit more of a curve. Okay? So now I got basically the curved back part. And now I need to do this under part. Now the thing is, you're never going to see underneath here, so I'm not really too worried about this being like 100% accurate. But it does come down, and then it goes out to various legs. Okay, so I have 5 legs that come off of this. So to do the leg part, I'm going to call this. Oops, we'll put this. I'm going to call this good as far as this is concerned. For the pipe, I don't really need to do anything more than that. It's a little low poly, but we can always poly smooth it later if we want. But I do want to get the 5 legs. So let me show you this. This might be useful. So we're going to create polygon primitives. I'm going to do a cylinder, but this time it has 5 legs. So I'm going to do 5 for the axis divisions and hit create. And then I'm going to bring this over. Actually, we'll just put it over here. We'll work on it over here, and then we'll bring it back afterwards. I'm going to scale it down a little bit, pull it up, scale it thinner. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is this. I'm going to grab and hit B to turn soft select back off. Click on this one. I'm going to grab every one of these edges. And I am going to hit bevel. Bevel. And let's take the fraction down to, we'll say, here. I'm going to go to faces. I'm going to grab every other face. And I know I made n-gons, but I don't care. I'm going to hit Control E for extrude. And normally I hit W, but I'm actually going to keep these. And I'm just going to pull these straight out. And you can see I got my 5 legs. Like so. Now what I'm going to do is they're actually curved on the top. I'm going to use my multi-cut tool. And I'm going to make the bottom tight, like this. And now when I hit 3, you'll see it'll be curved on the top, but not the bottom. I feel like these are a little bit, see how sharp that is? So in order to make that a little bit better, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to hold shift, and I'm going to put one here. And I'm holding shift because that way when I do this one and I hold shift, it'll be in the same location. I want them obviously all to be the same. So I'm going to go all the way to the edge. Shift, boom. And then I think there's one more, right? Yep. Boom. And now when I hit 3, you'll see it's curved on the end, but not the other part. And there's actually a hole here, but you're never going to see it because the pipe's going to go into it, so it doesn't really matter. Now what I'm going to do is just take this, and I'll hit Polysmooth. Now notice, these are n-gons, which means that it's more than 4 sides. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it just 5? Now I could fix that manually a couple different ways. I got a bunch of different ways I can do it. But watch this. When you hit Polysmooth, if there's any n-gons, it automatically creates quads when it does the Polysmooth, so it'll actually fix those. So now if you were to look at this, you'll see they're all quads. So it's another reason why if you throw a Polysmooth on whatever it is that you're modeling, it's actually a benefit because it will fix any issues you might have. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now I have the wheels, right? So the wheels are obviously a cylinder. I have to go back to create polygon primitives and cylinder because right now if I click cylinder, it's going to make a 5-sided one. I'm going to switch this back to 8. And then I'll hit create. All right. W. bring it over here. I'm going to rotate it 90. I'm going to hold J and rotate it like this. I'm going to scale it. Bring it up more. And I'm going to put it on this front one because that's straight. So I'm going to rotate it this way as well, 90 degrees. I'm going to hold J for increment. Okay. Scale this down like that. Scale it this way. And let's just get this. I'm going to hold V for point snap and middle mouse button click. So if it's already locked on an axis, that won't work. So I'm going to hold V and I'm just going to click and drag it and point snap it. That way it's centered on it. I'm going to move it a little bit lower. And we'll scale it more. And we'll put it up here. And we'll call that good. Okay. So I could polysmooth this. If I hit 3, you're going to see it's make it like a donut. So let's say I wanted to not do that. What I could do is another way of doing this. Is this going to work? Okay. If I hold shift, double click, hold shift, double click, instead of using the multi-cut tool, I could grab both of those, hit this, do like 0.05, so it's a really tight. That would be the same thing as adding those edges. Now when I hit polysmooth, because those are kind of tight, it will smooth it, and I won't have that issue. So there you go. All right. So now I have this here, but I need to make it on all the other ones, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pivot of this. I'm going to hit W for the pivot, or for the move tool. I want to put the pivot on the center. So I'm going to hold D to move pivot and V for point snap. And I'm just going to click and drag and put this right on the center. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is in the channel box here, I'm going to hit E for rotate, and I'm going to see how many degrees it is. I'm actually do this for me. See how it's got all these values in here? I want it 0 them out. So I'm going to go modify freeze transformations, makes it all zeroed out. I'm going to click and I'm just going to drag. And how many degrees is this roughly? It looks like, I'm going to say it's 72 degrees is what it needs to be. Okay? So I'm going to put that back. Now what we're going to do is this. I'm going to go to Edit, Duplicate Special, hit the option box. Okay? And we'll just do a copy. I don't want to do an instance. And we're going to take this out. Scale is going to be 1. But what I want to do is that it's X, Y, Z, right? So that was the Y. So X, Y in here. I'm going to say 72 degrees, and the number of copies I want are 5. So it's gonna duplicate it, move it 72 degrees, and it's gonna do that 5 times. Now when I hit duplicate special, and it goes right around. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Now with those selected, I'm gonna select this too, hit the move tool, and I'm just gonna move this on over. Oh, it looks like I did 5, only needed 4 because obviously I had the 5th one already. So anyway, I'm gonna grab those, move them over. If for some reason they're all moving in different directions, we can do is just grab them all, hit Control G. That'll make it a group. Now, whenever a new object is made, the pivot's always put on center. So I'm just going to go Modify, Center Pivot, and that will center the pivot back on the group. Now, if you click off and click back on, it's just going to let you click on the objects. But if I click on any of those objects that are part of the group and hit the up arrow, it'll move up in the hierarchy, and then the object will be selected. So, and I'm just going to go ahead and move this underneath my chair, like so, and just try to center it, I guess. Move this way a little bit more, and you can see, voila! I now have a chair and a desk. So obviously this needs to be done and this needs to be done, and there's actually a lot more stuff. My desk is very messy. Like I got a fan and a printer, and I got this microphone here, and the Cintiq monitor has actually got other stuff on it, so there's tissues over here. So there's all sorts of stuff, but roughly we've got a desk, and I don't want to take forever. So just what I'm going to do now, we didn't do this yet. Just go ahead and do Control Shift S, and you just want to save it as, so you can see it's right inside my Maya project folder, right? I'm still inside the same one. My boy Geo's here. It's going to go ahead and just name it Environment Geo V01. Okay, and I'm going to name mine V02 because I saved it earlier. And save. Okay, and then when you're done, all you're going to do is you're going to take your Maya project folder, you're going to zip it up, and then you're going to submit that. Okay, and that's it for the lab. So good luck. If you're running into any problems, let me know. Feel free to kind of riff on this a little bit. Like if you want to try and add more items or change them a little bit, I don't have a problem with it. As long as you get the idea of cutting edges, beveling, polysmoothing, using primitives to start out the shapes. Hopefully you get enough out of that to figure out how to model things. All right? But other than that, good luck.